we as a society don't trust that people in charge in a free country won't try to legislate something that will constrict people's freedoms in the face of that information. I think that's the fear.
All right, everyone. We're back with another video where Neil deGrasse Tyson absolutely schools Ben Shapiro, and he does it without even raising his voice. While Shapiro tries to twist science to make a point about transgender people, Tyson calmly shuts him down with pure facts and flawless logic.
It seems like the left is militating against the advent of science. One of those areas is the area of transgenderism, where the argument made...
Curiously, there's I have no transgender letters.
It's true.
It was just
nothing
missing.
in the book.
Yeah,
I know. We've strayed now far from the topic of your book, but since I have you here and you're a science person who knows science, I'm going to ask you to science for me a little bit.
Sure.
But when it comes to transgenderism, the argument that is typically made by gender theorists is that gender is entirely separate from sex. You've seen the argument made that it makes no difference on average if men are stronger than women are, and that if we were to allow transgender women to compete with non-transgender women, then this would somehow not disadvantage biological women. And this seems to me absolutely ascientific, that if we're actually going to have a discussion about gender and sex, that should be based in data, which suggests that mammals are in fact binary in terms of their sex, unless you have intersex birth defects typically, or genetic defects.
I'm happy to opine on this. This only matters because today we segregate nearly all sports by gender. Otherwise, why do you even give a shit what someone identifies with? We live in a free country, and with consenting adults and people free expression of who and what they are.
Man, on adult level, I agree with you. I think it does matter what you teach your children.
That's what I'm saying. And so there's the matrix of what you are biologically, how you express yourself, who you choose as a sexual partner. If we actually live in a free country, as we tell ourselves, people's freedom to behave in any of those ways should not concern you at all. Nor are they requiring that you behave that way. Okay?
Well,
this is for their own freedoms, because we live in a free country. Now, what is unresolved here is, what do you do with sports? It's unresolved. And I've followed that closely, and I don't see any meaningful solutions to come down off of that. We know that hormones manifest differently in different people, and just the whole thing with steroids. Steroids are hormones, right? And we rallied against steroids in professional sports because it gives you an undue advantage. So I've tried to think of what the future of sports would be in the world of a gender spectrum. And it may be, you don't specify whether it's a male or female sport. You just take measurements of what your hormonal balances are. And so you compete based on your hormones. I mean, this is thought I had. I don't know. I don't know where it's going to land.
The WNBA won't be in business for very long if that's the case.
It would just be, you'd have to find some way to compete people against each other if you still care that sports is an interesting activity.
I guess the area where it does come up in a non-sports area.
Yeah, tell me, I don't know.
So it would be, you talk in your book about the education of children and teaching children about science. And right now, children are being taught about the quote-unquote gender spectrum, which is not scientifically based. That is a theory-based idea.
No, wait, hold on. People express themselves on a spectrum. So you learn that.
That's a social point, not a scientific point. Meaning we express ourselves
hold on.
based in different languages. Is that something you teach in science class, or is that something that you teach when you're teaching language?
So whether the fact that people want to express themselves on a spectrum, on a gender spectrum, whether that fact is something you want to put in a sociology class or in a science class, maybe that remains to be determined. But it is a real fact about real society.
Well, of course, nobody's denying that people identify how they want to identify.
So
the question is, what is the relationship of that to biology? Meaning that the argument is made that trans women are women, for example. And what that seems to mean is that trans women are identical to women. Now, if people want to say trans women are not biological women, obviously that is the case.
You know, Tyson really nails it here. It's not that folks are scared of science itself. They're worried about how politicians might bend it to push their own agenda. And we've all seen this happen way too many times, whether it's climate change, vaccines, or trans rights. Good research keeps getting twisted to fit someone's story. And this isn't just some idea. We've watched it play out in real life, from the Red Scare back in the 50s to all the debates today about which bathroom someone can use. Every time science gets tangled up in politics, regular people end up losing out. Facts get turned into tools for control, not clarity. But here's what's smart. Tyson flips the whole thing around. This isn't about not trusting science, it's about not trusting the people in charge who misuse it. And let's be real. When has mixing politics and science ever ended up helping everyday people?
But people don't seem to want to say that, although that is obviously scientifically true. Trans women are not biological women. Biological women are biological women.
But where are you going with this? What are you trying to accomplish by asking yourself, is it science or is it not science? It's people in society.
But this is a perfect example of an area where suddenly it doesn't matter to say things that are just true. Like, why is it bad or wrong to point out?
I have another way to approach this. I care what is objectively true in the world as a scientist. But let me not say even as a scientist. I just simply care what is objectively true. And science happens to be a pretty potent path to invoke, to find out what is true. And so if people express themselves on a gender spectrum, and that is an actual thing in an actual society, if we have not fully explained that scientifically, that's an interesting frontier to study. If you want to say it's only sociological, then it's the purview of the social sciences. I don't care who studies it. It's an interesting fact about society that's worth learning about. To fight someone and say, it's not biological, it's just your this, it's real and it's there.
Well,
because it's real because it manifests.
But it is real because it manifests. But the question of how to classify manifestation is a scientific question, meaning that, for example, there was a woman over at Brown University. Mm-hmm. She came out with a study that suggested that there was a phenomenon called rapid onset gender dysphoria, in which a member of a particular group would suffer from gender dysphoria, and this person's immediate peer group would suddenly have an onset of gender dysphoria. This paper was so controversial that Brown tried to pull it, and then was forced to reassign it later. You see this sort of treatment.
That's a different question. What you're asking now is, are there some topics that should not be studied scientifically?
Right.
And is there some taboo? And Sam Harris speaks a lot about this.
Yes.
And I think the concern is, if you study some topic that's a hot button topic and you bring scientific methods and tools to it, we don't trust, I'm interpreting here, I think we as a society don't trust that people in charge in a free country won't try to legislate something that will constrict people's freedoms in the face of that information. I think that's the fear.
Well, isn't that...
It's a fear.
I mean, and isn't that...
We don't trust our own ability to govern ourselves in the face of what could be some information relative to other kinds of information.
Isn't that a bit of a problem?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's not. It means it's not a free society. It's not a society of free inquiry, which I think you need ultimately. But yeah.
My general take on all of this stuff, from climate change to gender dysphoria to all of these issues, is bring out the science and then let's hash it out. I think that the problem I'm seeing on a lot of sides is,
what is your motivation?
Why? Why does that matter?
It matters because if you have political power, you could end up creating legislation that subtracts freedoms from people who previously were enjoying the same freedoms as you. The history of that exercise
then make a better argument.
Doesn't end well.
Well, but the history of which exercise? Bring out all the science and let's hash it out?
I'm saying if you bring out all the science and the politicians hash it out, The history of that exercise is a recipe for disaster if it involves discoveries that put people's freedom, as defined in our Constitution, at risk.
You know, Tyson really hits on the big picture here. All this debate starts because we still split sports by gender. That's the real root of the issue. Everything else kinda just dances around that. When Shapiro says the left is against science, it feels like he's using biology more as a weapon than a real point. He leans into this idea that if we respect trans people, everything falls apart. But science isn't that simple. Yeah, mammals are mostly male or female, but there are also over 100 natural variations in between. Nature isn't always black and white. Tyson's not ignoring that. He's saying if we're really about freedom, why are we so hung up on how other people live? Let's be honest, a lot of this is just fear dressed up as debate, and you can tell who actually wants solutions. Tyson's talking about rethinking sports categories, maybe by skill, weight, or something fair for everyone. That's how progress works. But Shapiro, he just shuts it down. That's not protecting science, that's just refusing to listen.
But now you're arguing for limitations on areas of particular study.
No, I'm arguing on we need a way to shield, we need a way to protect people's freedoms in the face of whatever gets discovered scientifically.
So
I'll give it.
I agree. I think that's what the Constitution is for, is to guard rights from.
But we're always fighting people who want rights are always fighting others who are saying they don't get the rights from the Constitution. This is a daily challenge on the progressive left. It is a daily challenge, right? Here's an example. I forgot how I ended up getting this phone call. It was some magazine that serves the gay community. And I don't remember why, because they wanted my opinion on, they wanted my opinion about whether being gay was biological or mental.
Right, there's that new study that came out, this vast study.
Or psychological.
Right,
okay?
Right.
And I said, I don't care which it is. Find out what it is, fine. But the answer to that question should have no consequence on legislations or laws. Because, for example, suppose it said it's purely biological, okay? Then you say, oh, that explains it. Suppose it says it's purely psychological. What are you going to do now? You say, well, now you're going to go to the reorientation camps or whatever those are called, where they realign you because they say it's psychological rather than biological. All of a sudden, people start behaving in ways in society that want to constrict the freedom of expression of who and what people are. And that is a danger. So maybe there needs to be a line in the sand. Let science do what it does, but politicians keep us free. Yet there's so many politicians that are doing the opposite of that.
So why aren't you a libertarian?
That scares me.
I'm a libertarian. Come over here. Just
okay.
The line is right here. Just join me over here.
Here I go. Come in. I've read a lot about libertarianism. There's some fascinating strong points within it, but I would say that I have too much of me wants to help others to possibly cross over the line to libertarians. Libertarians, I got mine, you get yours, that's your problem. You know, I'm paraphrasing, of course. But my father was active in the civil rights movement. My mother went back to school when we were empty nest, and she became a gerontologist. These are two fields that are deeply concerned with the health and well-being of fellow members of our society. I grew up in that. I'm their kid, the astrophysicist. So I grew up in that, but my feet were grounded. And in fact, how do you like this pivot? You ready? In fact, I wrote a letter to my parents for their 30th wedding anniversary where I thanked them for keeping me grounded. And I reproduced that letter.
Oh yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's the book really is fantastic. Yeah. I'm not just saying that; it really is a beautiful book.
So if you read that, you will know I could never be full-up libertarian.
Neil deGrasse Tyson makes a really powerful point here, one that's easy to miss if you're not paying close attention. He's not saying we should limit science or ignore what research tells us. Instead, Tyson is arguing that science and freedom have to work together. No discovery, no matter how big or small, should ever be used to take away someone's basic rights. That example Tyson brings up about the study on whether being gay is biological or not. That's not just some abstract idea, it's real. Tyson saying it shouldn't matter what the science says in terms of someone's right to exist, to love who they love, or to live freely. If it's biological, cool. If it's psychological, also cool. But neither answer should ever be used to justify discrimination, conversion therapy, or stripping people of their dignity. And you can tell this isn't just some intellectual exercise for Tyson. When he talks about his family, his dad's work in civil rights, his mom's focus on caring for the elderly, it's clear where his heart is. He believes in science, sure, but he also believes in people. That's why he says he could never fully embrace libertarianism. It's not about, you do you, I do me. It's about we're in this together. Tyson's message is simple but profound. Let science explore, let knowledge grow, but never at the cost of our humanity. Politics should protect people, not punish them for what we learn. And honestly, that's a take everyone should sit with for a minute. So what do you think? Did Neil deGrasse Tyson make a strong case here? Or was there something Shapiro said that resonated with you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read everything. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. We break down debates, reactions, and big conversations just like this every day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.